here to discuss On the Underground. Now, this is the London-Berlin route, but we also have the New York and Paris routes. So, I guess I shouldn't say routes, because those are obviously not connected to each
cities.
other. So the board's two-sided. One is New York, one's Paris. This one's London and Berlin on the two sides. But before we get into discussing these games, make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Absolutely.
And the notification bell, because you don't want to miss the train, nor any of our videos.
Yeah, anything that we'd like to do here.
So, Rob, what can you tell us about On the Underground?
On the Underground, so the London-Berlin was actually re-released. It was released quite a few years ago, but then came back out in 2019, the version that we have, but then it was re-released for the Kickstarter for the Paris,
and they
New York
upgraded
version.
the components.
So, but the cover is exactly the same, so it might be a little confusing if you look it up on Board Game Geek. So, overall rank is 2,236, rated at a 7.2. Plays 2 to 5 people, ages 14 up, and 45 to 60 minutes. And I think after the first play, I think that would be accurate because it went pretty quick after a few rounds. Designed by Sebastian Bleasdale, art by Victor Sete. I apologize if I butchered that. Published by Luda Creations. MSRP is $49.99, but I saw a lot of different price points. I saw Noble Knight had for $39.95. Board Game Geek had multiple copies from $40 to $60. Amazon had a bunch. Do you remember how much you paid?
No.
So, a lot of different price points. So, just do a little bit of research. You can probably find a pretty cheap version.
Yeah. So, let's talk about what's in the box. So, this is the Kickstarter upgraded version. I have to say this is probably one of the least upgraded versions I've ever seen. In hindsight, I would not have gotten the upgraded version of this. Matter of fact, for the New York Paris, I didn't. Once I saw, because basically all you're getting for the upgrade are these towers that mark the locations, the destinations, and these are okay.
Yeah, they're all right.
You have one for London set and one set for Berlin.
Yeah,
that are just different towers. Presumably New York, you're probably going to have like Empire State Building, and I'm guessing the Eiffel Tower.
Probably. And train routes are just very plain little wooden tracks, I guess you would call them, but just nothing special. The cards are, although, I mean, they have a little bit of the linen finish, but they're very thin.
But that's all standard in the regular box. The only things that are different are this passenger that is like a cut plastic.
Yeah, like clear.
But when we started playing with it, it was like, well, it's hard to see it because it's see-through and it blends in with the board.
And it falls
so we ended up switching to these wooden bits anyway, which are going to probably be in the standard. You may not have 5 different varieties.
Different shapes of passengers.
Yeah, so you have a few choices of who you want to play with. Which is nice, but it's not really necessary.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think it's nice, but for the amount of money for it to be a deluxe version.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course you get some Kickstarter stuff like the solo mode and a few mini expansions too, which you could probably pick those up outside. So honestly, in hindsight, I probably wouldn't back this as a Kickstarter or try to pursue the Kickstarter. I'd just get the standard version if you're interested in it. Now, as far as what type of game this is, if you're familiar with Ticket to Ride, which most people are, this is probably a step above. It's like if you're moving up the difficulty chain.
A little bit more complicated.
Just slightly a modified version of Ticket to Ride. The tickets aren't really collected in this one.
Yeah, you're not playing cards to have the same color to build routes.
Yeah, but you're still building routes, and there's a little more complexity into how you score in this one. So we'll get into that in gameplay. But as far as the components, I can't rate this any higher than maybe a 6.5, and that's just because of the screen printing on these, and in the wooden shaped, the custom shaped. I'm not sure that it's...
I think a 5.5. I think it's just a little bit better than Catan.
Well, I mean, the board is nice, which Catan, you wouldn't have a nice board like this. It's an oversized board.
I like the tiles for Catan. I mean, they're fine.
Yeah.
I don't think and it's very, although it's very effective and functional, the board is very simplistic.
Yeah.
So there's nothing special about it. So I can't see it rating it that much more than Catan. I'm a 5.5.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought was really disappointing is this is the first player token. It's just a little piece of cardboard. You would think that they would give you something nicer than that. I mean, matter of fact, I might just use that as the first player marker and then put these guys down as your movers. The passenger gets around a lot.
Yes, he moves around a lot.
So moving on to theme on this. So basically, it is your standard train laying game, but you've got routes like it almost looks like a map that you would see like a subway map.
Yeah, it does remind you of a subway map that you would see like in the subway station where you'd see the different routes and the connections.
Now I do like the faded art in the background of the different buildings that that are kind of standard things you would visit while traveling in these different cities. So I thought that was neat. But it is all really subdued. It's one of those cases where functionality definitely takes precedence over the art, which I think is always important.
I do too, and like I said, it's very functional.
Yeah,
I think it works very well in that regard.
Yeah, but there's nothing outstanding about it. The cards, are just a repeat of this map. Yeah. They have a highlighted section that helps show you where the location is on the map, which that's really handy. But nothing outstanding.
No.
So from a thematic standpoint, it's this is almost like a watercolor. That's really the prettiest component.
I love the cover of the box. Yeah, it's very nice.
That's really the nicest art of the whole thing. Everything is just like it looks like watercolor paint that's just smeared on everything, which is it's nice, but there's nothing outstanding about it. I'm probably going to give this from a thematic standpoint, considering, I mean, it does, given the style of gameplay, it makes sense to lend it to a subway building, but it's not really integrated that, in the sense that it doesn't feel like you're building something really,
and you don't see a subway actual train at all.
No. It'd been nice. I mean, they could have just had subway cars. Yeah. I mean, even like Ticket to Ride has cars that look like trains, and you could probably find all these colors in some variety of Ticket to Ride and replace these wooden bits, and it would look nice. Because I think there's probably enough space for any of those cars on here. It might be a little difficult when you get like 5 lanes over here where you might have some difficulty. But
you might be able to pimp it out a little bit though.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to go ahead and give this probably from a thematic. So I'll give it a 6 because I do like the faded art on it.
I do too. Yeah, I think 6 is a good score.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the rule book. So the rule book is a 12-page rule book. It has a cover that matches the box, and it's got a little bit of text down here about the kind of the history of the building of the underground for London, and there's probably some Berlin. I didn't really read through it. Yeah, it just actually mentions kind of the networks within Berlin, so there's not a whole lot of history about it. Then it goes into the components. There is a nice table of contents, which again you don't see very often in a rule books. I've seen
the artwork right there is great.
Yeah, the art's really pretty there. Yeah, it'd be nice to have more of that, somewhere else. The component list is here, as I mentioned. Then you've got the setup. This game is really easy to set up. It doesn't take a lot of work, just getting it out of the baggies, really. And then each, depending on player count, you're going to get a different combination of colors, and the tokens you used for scoring, again, they're just a little piece of cardboard. Yeah, but they do have the colors that you're going to use, so if you're someone who's picky about colors, you may get forced into playing colors you don't like, but
But I think that's also probably the negative is if someone's colorblind, they may have a hard time playing this game.
Yeah, that's true, because there isn't any kind of
there's no markings. Iconography that would differentiate the colors. So
right, and nor the wood.
Right.
And some of them are really close, like the black and the gray, and that's one of the combinations you had. Is the black and the gray. So yeah, I could see that would be a problem. It's got how to place track. The track placement is really not difficult. It's not very. If you're playing Ticket to Ride, it's very similar to that. The only difference is you have to play at the end points. You can't just play anywhere you want on the board. You have to continue. Once you place your initial placement, you have to continue from there. That's kind of key to the game.
Yeah, and part of the strategy too is that you got the two different colors. So like I played almost all of one color before I played my second color, which kind of helped me in a bit until I got, because of other people playing, I kind of got locked in a section of the map. But it was kind of neat that way.
But yeah, you can start another color on the opposite side of the board, and that's nice. The trickiest part of this is at the end of your turn moving the passenger, because you have to do some calculation to figure out how he moves. He's got some rules that he has to move
very
by.
specific rules that he moves by. That
so that's
we'll talk about
the biggest complaint I've seen from other people about this game is it's like it feels like Ticket to Ride, but then you have this interruption in the gameplay where you have to do this math and figure out, and some people just don't like that. I didn't mind it.
I didn't mind it, and especially once we got used to it. It was very quick.
Yeah.
But again, it's getting that used to it. And it did take us a few rounds to get used to that.
Yeah, there was a little arguing about how it worked and everything, but it wasn't bad. So I think the rulebook, it's 12 pages long, gets you into the game really fast, which is important in this kind of game. I think it does a great job explaining the rules. It's got demonstrations of the examples. I wish it had a little bit better explanation on a demonstration on how the movement of the passenger work. It's got a lot of detail around the placement of the tracks, which is the easy part.
Right.
But there should have been a little bit of scenarios. So there's like one example in there how it moves, and it's not really
a robust one.
It doesn't really differentiate a lot of the scenarios we ran into.
Sure.
It's like, well, what if this and this? So I think they could have used a little bit more development there, but it's not that hard.
It's not that hard, and I think that if you're used to this level game, you'll figure it out with no problem.
I would definitely call this a light to medium game. If you play Ticket to Ride and you're fluent in that game, it's not a huge leap for this game. So I'll probably give these rules an 8. I think they do a good job, and I like games that get you in quick.
Right. And we really didn't reference it a whole lot after.
Right. This was kind of our intro game for the day, and it wasn't difficult for us to pick it up and get it going right away. All right. So as far as gameplay goes, so the first thing is we've got. Let me move all this promo stuff. You've got a deck of cards. That is the timer for the game.
Yeah, so you basically shuffle the deck. And
you're going to flip 4 of those cards up, and the passenger always starts at a specific city. In this case, it's Houston, or a city, I should say it's not a city, but a specific location in the city.
So we reveal the 4 cards, and then based off the color, we're going to determine what color building was on that.
In this case, we got 2 yellow cards and 2 gray. The yellow's locations are express routes, so we're going to place these. This is Marble Arch, which is going to be right here.
Yeah. And
then you got Putney, which is down at the bottom corner over here.
And then we got Green Park.
Green Park is going to be here in the middle too.
It's going to be fairly close to Pickney.
Where is it? Oh, right there.
Yep. And then we got
Hinton, which is up here at the top.
Yep.
There we go. And it's got the boxes to make it so it's quick to find.
You're set up.
Yeah, we're not experts on the locations within London. It was just the cards are that easy. All right, so now you're going to take your turn. You're going to do 4 actions on your turn, and for the most part, that's going to be laying track.
Yeah.
You have the other option of taking a split token. So you can take 2 of those. That could be 2 of your actions. But you have those options. So, the nice thing about these games is they play by the same general rules, but the scoring system is different on each game, each location. So, in the case of London, the scoring rules have some bonuses for making circles around areas. And then you have specific green tiles that if you connect the matching icons, you get bonuses.
And of the same color line.
Yeah, Berlin, on the other hand, has a whole bunch of different tokens similar to those green ones, but they're different. And you get connection points for touching and connecting to these, but you don't get anything for making circles on it. So it works totally different.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming New York and Paris will be similar too. So you've got, in essence, the same game, but 4 totally different varieties about playing it. Which I thought
we can look at variants basically in the same game.
So with 2 players, we each have 4 colors, and mine. Where are mine? Gray, black, and blue and green. So purple is not used. All right. So I have these 4 colors. Now I can choose any one of them. They act the same, but the key is when I play one of the tracks from it, I have to choose from that point forward to connect always to that initial track
of the same color,
or down the chain. But they have to be. If I played here, I could play here or here on the trail, but I could not jump somewhere else. And if I played there, I could not. Well, it's a bad example. If I played here, I could not go back up this way because that would be a split, and that's where these tokens come in later. So I'm basically going to be laying 4 tracks ideally, and what I would like to do is, one, I could lay them such that I know he's going to be traveling to one of the yellows and one of the grays, because normally by default, if it's all gray or all yellow, he's only going to hit one destination. Right. But if there's a yellow and gray, he's going to hit one of each.
And it's a matter of which one's closest.
Yes, he's going to take the shortest
complicated route.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But because I know how he's moving, I'm going to try to move towards where he's going to be taking my trains. So I would play,
ideally within 2 cities close to each other.
So I'm going to do this. I'm now also touching this green, which is also kind of a nice thing for later, but it's not something essential right away. And then here, and then
I'll do the one below it. Yeah.
I'll go that way. Yeah. So I've got 4 connections. So now my turn is over. He is going to now travel to go to one of the yellow destinations first. Yellow is always first.
So which is one is the closest?
The closest is going to be this one here, because he can hop on my train and get 1 space away, so he only has to walk a very short distance. If I hadn't built these trains, he would still walk. He would still go there, but he would have to walk,
and nobody would get points.
Yeah, and he would be unhappy about having to make that walk. So he's going to go to here and then walk to this destination, and this is going to get removed. It's Marble Arch. So
and because he used Randy's train,
he used my train, I get a point. So I move up on the track 1. Now he then is going to have to go to a gray. Well, he could walk all the way over here, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4 walk spaces he's going to have to take. Or he could just go 1 and then get back on my train and go here, which is what he would do because he wants to take that short.
And because he used Randy's train again, he gets another point.
So that's a standard turn.
Yeah.
Now again,
so then we would get rid of the cards.
we get rid of those 2 cards. So that was Green Park.
So we would discard those.
And we would flip 2 more.
And we would then put 1 on Periville.
Yep, and that's over here somewhere.
Yeah, over here.
Okay.
And then we got Earl's Court, which is another yellow.
Okay, and that
looks like it's down here somewhere.
Right here.
Right there.
All right, so it's actually good convenient for me because he's right here, but Rob gets his turn now, so he could actually build trains that direction too.
So now it's my turn. So I got red, pink, yellow, and orange. So I can pick any one of those 4. So let's do orange.
As a matter of fact, he could put multiple different colors around. You probably wouldn't want to do that generally, but you could start 4 different color trains if you wanted.
So since I know he's going to try and travel to one of the yellows, I can try and build a route close to one of those. So it would make sense for me to go here, here, and here. So now I know I'll get at least 1 point for him traveling to the yellow, and then he won't go to the other yellow, at least not on my turn, because he only travels to 1. So then he's going to go to the closest gray, and so which would be
probably this
one. So I could either do another orange, or I could do a completely different color and go up here. And so since I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So this would be the shortest route. Since he's going to use my train part of the way, I'll get another point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many of the tracks you have, you only get 1 point, regardless of how many travels. And you've also managed to connect to a green. Now you get 2 points if you connect the 2 matching greens together
of the same color.
They're all greens in this case. But it has to be
the route.
Yeah, the route has to be.
Since I connected an orange here to get to the other one, it has to still be orange.
Yeah. So even though Rob controls 4 different colors, it doesn't matter. Those are 4 different lines, but you can't count them and intermingle them. It's got to be the same color.
We go here. I would get a point.
Yep.
And then bloop, up here.
And you would get another point.
I would get another point.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, we get rid of the cards and draw 2 more, and we just keep going.
Now, for this variety, the other things you can do is you can connect to, these are called international stations, these blue with the arrows. If you connect to one of those, you get a point. So if I had split my blue and gone this direction, touch that, I would get a point for that.
And it's just the initial time you connect to it, and everyone who does it will get a point.
And it's each initial time for each line.
Right.
So if I connected with the blue and then later connected with the green, I would get another point. The other things you can do, there's red, these are end points, like end stops. If you connect to one of those, you get 2 points, plus you get a free split token.
Of the split token.
You get, in these split tokens, you have to collect 2 of them, and you can cash them in, and basically that is how I would divide my route. So if I needed to come up this way for blue, I could pay 2 of those tokens and play a blue token, play there, and that would take 1 action. Assuming I already had those tokens. Sure. If not, I would have to spend an action to get a token. If I didn't already have one at all, I would have to spend 2 actions to get tokens. That's pretty much how the game plays, and you play until that deck runs out completely, and then you get to the last player.
Yeah, it's not all the cards necessarily. It's just when the deck you can't draw anymore.
And then you play till the last player.
Even number of turns.
Yeah. So it's a pretty straightforward game, but it does get more complex as you play, because once these routes start getting on there, you got to kind of figure out because he doesn't like switching tracks trains if he can avoid it. So if you've got he's on one, like in this case, if he's on blue and then he has to go down here to orange, that's a switch over he doesn't want to make. But if I had run blue down past your orange, he would stay on my blue, even though the orange is there, as long as it's not a shorter route for less walking for him.
And he would still switch routes before walking.
Yes.
So
he likes to take the train where possible. He wants to minimize the number of train switches he has to make, and he wants to minimize the amount of walking he has to take. So
that's the complicated part of the game. But again, once you get used to it, we flew by it. It was super easy.
Yeah, especially if there's multiple people, because you can kind of like double check each other and say, "Yep, that looks right," and move forward. And you'll find yourself I think I found it to be really good when we played with 4 people, because
that might be the sweet spot for me.
Oh, the other thing on this board that we didn't mention is the circling. So if you complete, and particularly it's really in London, it's this central area. But basically, if you have one color and you complete a complete circle around and connect to each other, at which point you would have to do splits to get away from that after you did it.
But if there's any stops within that circle,
so if I completed all the way around here, there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stops in between, and I would get 5 points for having all those circled. And then, after that, if you subdivided it, you wouldn't get any more points. But if I added to it, you don't count the parts that are part of the trail. But if I made a complete circle that included those parts later on, I would get the points that I didn't acquire from those before. So they would.
And the nice part about spreading out like that is once you get towards the later half of the game, those buildings that you start connecting to are on your route. So a lot of times you just luck into some points.
Yeah, because I think there's cards for all of the gray and yellow spots on the board, 1 for each. So you might find, like Miranda was losing early in the game pretty bad.
But she was so spread out.
Then at the end, all of the things were falling on her route, so she caught up really quickly.
She was getting 2 to 3 points almost every round.
Yeah, and the scoring was pretty close and tight on this game. I think Caleb kind of got a little bit of a run out because he got a big circular area that he managed to complete. But, even with that...
I jumped up because I completed the largest circle in the game. I got 8 points.
Yeah.
And then that got me in the lead for a little while, but it didn't last very long.
Yeah. Because after you finished that and Caleb finished it, we started having a bunch of hits right there, because this is all a big conglomeration there. And we had a bunch of the buildings popping in there. So between you two, you were subdividing those hits pretty much. And Caleb found a way to maximize getting those.
He scored a lot of points.
Yeah. So because all it takes is getting on his train first, and then you're not going to want to jump off unless you had to be forced to. So he got to take a lot of advantage of a lot of those routes.
Right.
Whereas Miranda and I were on the periphery. I started a little bit getting into the middle, but mostly Miranda was like here and over there.
Yeah, but there at the end of the game, a lot of those buildings that are popping up were in her area.
Yeah.
It was undisputed.
Yeah, there was nothing. It was going right on the route. And then at the end, you got ones that fell on your train there, and there was like nothing you could do. You're going to get those points because it's just he's going to ride the train till he gets to the next stop. So I found this to be interesting twist on the laying of tiles or laying of tracks type genre. I thought it's kind of a little bit of a logic puzzle. And,
a little bit.
You've got to, there is some luck of the draw about what's going to come up next.
Yeah, but if I don't have a great memory, but if you have a really good memory, you could really kind of play the deck a little bit, knowing that your odds are these cities have already been done. I know they won't come up again, so I'm going to plan to go over to this other side and really try and maximize that luck factor of when it flips up.
Yeah.
I liked it. I didn't love it. It wasn't like anything particularly special in my opinion. It's just a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably going to give this a 7. I think it was, entertaining. If you got bored of Ticket to Ride, I think this is a nice twist on it, and it's something like I think Sarah might have trouble getting this one right now, but after she's played Ticket to Ride, more and more, and she gets good at those kind of games, I think this will be a good switch over to take her to the next level. I
think this is better than standard Ticket to Ride, but I still think Ticket to Ride Europe is a better game overall. That's my favorite version of Ticket to Ride. So I would rather play that before this, but this is still it's a solid game.
Yeah. So what would you score it?
I think I would score it a 6.5.
Okay. So that's our thoughts on the Underground. So if you had a chance to play it, tell us what you think. If you've ridden on the London Underground, let us know what you think. I've never been to London.
It's just like it. I don't know. It feels exactly
it's two-dimensional,
so weird.
Like I think they just pulled this right off the wall of London, the Underground. Yeah. No, I've never been to London. That's one of my
That's one of my dream spots.
I want to go to London. I want to go to Essen.
I want to go to Abbey Road really bad.
Yeah. So I eventually will hopefully make it to Europe at some point, but before I die. My guess is it'll be after I retire, but that's my goal. So and I've got some friends in London, so I'd love to go visit them. So
the UK Game Expo, that'd be awesome.
All right, so well, that's our thoughts. Until next time, you keep on riding those trains and keep watching. All right, bye.
Bye.